This baby was born old and lived the rest of its life aging backwards. We start things off in a hospital where an elderly woman rests on what will soon be her deathbed. Her only child, Caroline, comforts her in her final moments. "Would you read this for me, honey?" she says, signaling towards a diary. "Sure, Mom." Through a short tale, we learn about a man known as Mr. Gatto. During World War I, his son left for war and returned a little bit more boxed in than usual. After they buried him, Mr. Gatto was commissioned to build a clock for a brand new train station. Many prominent figures attended the clock's unveiling, even Teddy Roosevelt. Shock filled the crowd as the veil wasn't lifted. The clock was running backwards. Gatto preemptively apologizes before stating he built it this way so that those we lost in war could perhaps find their way back in time. Perhaps my son would come back too. Back in the present, we learn that a hurricane is approaching the hospital. As the storm rages on, Caroline continues on to a new segment of the diary, the story of one Benjamin Button. The night the conflict ended brought forth a seemingly endless wave of celebration, though a man named Thomas Button was bound to have all of that flipped around. The panicked man is seen running into his home where we find his wife has just given birth. Unfortunately, the doctors inform him that she doesn't have much longer. Thomas sits by her as she utters her final words. "Promise me he'll have a place." "I promise." Thomas goes to have a look at his son, but is warned by a nurse. Despite this, he has a peek and finds what he believes to be an abomination. So, about that promise. Well, that escalated quickly. Thomas charges through the streets like he's a quarterback and his baby is the football. He makes a way to a river before a cop spots him and makes chase. But fortunately, cops did not invent guns yet. Phew, that's a relief. Thomas runs back in the other direction and drops off the baby at seemingly the first house he found. Shortly after, a young couple emerge, Queenie and Tizzy. The pair flirt before making their way down the stairs. Tizzy nearly steps on Benjamin and Queenie inspects him. Despite his afflictions, Queenie believes him to be a miracle. She takes him inside the home, which we learn is a nursery for the old. Queenie has a doctor look at the baby, which he has named Benjamin. He concludes that the baby is somehow suffering from the signs of old age. He's blind from cataracts, his skin has lost all elasticity, and his joints are crippled by arthritis. The doctor doesn't give him much longer and states, "Some creatures just aren't meant to live." Queenie objects to this and states that he's a miracle.
Just not the kind of miracle one hopes to see.
Deciding to keep him, Queenie introduces the boy to the others. Fortunately, they all take a liking to his relatable disposition, since just like him, they're all old and dying too.
He looks just like my ex-husband.
Back in the present, Caroline wonders if this story is true while her mother gleefully relives the past through her daughter's soothing voice. We fast forward a few years and see that Benjamin is now a young boy, though he doesn't even realize that. Instead, he thinks he's just like the others, an old person in their twilight years. With the stature of a child and the face of the average politician, Benjamin is quite the oddity. One day, he visits a church with Queenie and takes to the stand. She whispers in the pastor's ear, and he reveals to the crowd that Queenie's insides are all twisted up. She can't have a baby of her own. The pastor powers up and releases a blessing blast.
Praise God!
Next up, he turns his sights to Benjamin. "How old are you, sir?"
7, but I look a lot older.
God bless this man. Through the power of faith alone, the pastor commands Benjamin to rise. Miraculously, he does so, but takes a stumble on his first step.
Rise up!
All on his own, Benjamin stands back up and takes his first steps. But, just as the Lord giveth, he also taketh. Suddenly, the pastor collapses with a heart attack. God does work in mysterious ways, or whatever. From then on, Benjamin walked with crutches. He later met some new people like Tizzy's friend, a pygmy fellow,
There's my little man.
and this woman named Maple, who teaches him how to play piano. As the years pass, Death becomes a regular visitor in the household. Though, as the others age, Benjamin finds himself growing younger. His senses are sharpening, he's growing hair in new places, and his blicky's got the stiffy. One day, Benjamin meets one of the residents' grandchildren, a young redhead with blue eyes named Daisy. It was love at first sight, the diary reads. Back in the present, Caroline gives her mother a caring touch while stating, "Did you know this Benjamin loved you from the moment he saw you?" That's right, Daisy is Caroline's mother. Anyway, the pair kick it off and chat during lunch. Later, Daisy's grandmother reads the both of them a children's book. This is a picture of Old Man Kangaroo at 5 in the afternoon. Damn, that verse hits hard. At night, Daisy wakes up Benjamin and the two hide under a table while chatting. "You're different, aren't you?" "Well, I'm not as old as I look." Daisy touches his face before her grumpy grandmother breaks things up. She scolds Daisy and tells Benjamin he ought to be ashamed of himself. Queenie comes down to comfort him and reminds him that not everyone will understand how special he is. A few years pass and Benjamin can be seen at a dock. A tugboat captain named Mike Clark announces that he's offering $2 for a day's honest work. No one jumps at the offer, except for Benjamin. "All right, you're old, but I'll take it." Benjamin is elated at the opportunity to work. Hell, he'd even do it for free. He does everything he's asked of and later chats with Mike. "Say, old timer, can you still get it up?" Yeah. "When's the last time you've been with a woman?"
Never?
Captain Mike is shook at this revelation. "You tell me that in all your years, you ain't ever hit it and quit it?" "Ha ha, I'm gonna get you taken care of, don't you worry." The men hit up a bar, and Mike has quite a bit to drink. He begins to ramble about his father, who always wanted him to be a tugboat man just like himself. "You'll never amount to anything else," he said, "but I wanted to be an artist. And you know what? I am. This is my art."
But you're a tugboat captain.
Let the man have his dream. Before the captain's brain explodes, the main event of the night has arrived. Mike has his pick, but no one's too keen to hang out with Benjamin. Though, this lady takes one for the team. And whoa, this guy really gets after it.
Again.
After that fateful night, Benjamin learned the value of money and what it could buy. After exiting the establishment and leaving a 5-star review on Yelp, we see Benjamin's father, Thomas, stalking him. As Benjamin walks home, Thomas pulls up and offers him a ride. "Hey, would you want to get some drinks, man?" "Sure, why not?" You know, he'd be real easy to kidnap if he wasn't so old looking. Anyway, Benjamin has his first drink with Thomas while they briefly get to know each other. Though, he remains in the dark about the true nature of their relationship. Sometime later, we see Daisy again. She's grown up quite a bit. This time, in the night, it's Benjamin who wakes her up. He takes her to the boat and wakes up Captain Mike. "Could you take us out to the river?" Don't you know it's Sunday, man? Which means I had a lot to drink last night."
Well, you're drunk every night.
True. Captain Mike springs into wakefulness and proceeds to sail the ship while the pair enjoy each other's company and the scenery. Then, we cut to Benjamin getting his hair cut by Maple. He remarks that he believes he's growing younger while everyone else grows older. Maple has a grim take on his fate, opening Benjamin's eyes up to a new perspective. "I'd say it's quite a sad thing because you'll watch all the people you love grow old and pass." Benjamin looks quite sad, but Maple comforts him. "We're supposed to lose people. That's how we know how much they meant to us." Sometime later, Benjamin heads into Maple's room, but finds her still as a rock. He later attends her funeral, and soon after, decides it's time for him to leave the house too. He's going to begin a long-term work arrangement with Captain Mike, which will have him traveling across the continent. As he departs, Daisy can be seen with somber eyes. She chases after him and makes him promise to write her wherever he is. Back in the present, Caroline looks over all the lovely postcards Benjamin sent from all the places he worked at. We also see that Daisy sent letters back, writing about her pursuit of a dancing career. Then, and on the boat, Mike comments on Benjamin's growing stature. "Am I seeing funny, or are you growing, boy?" The ship's crew is now expanded to have a cook, a couple twins, and a guy named John Grimm, who lived up to his name.
1 in every 8 boats never return.
Benjamin and the others find themselves taking an extended stay at a hotel. In the bar, Captain Mike shares a story about his tattoo of a hummingbird to a bunch of Russians. A man translates for him as Mike notes that the peculiar bird has a flight pattern that resembles
Infinity!
Benjamin looks on and realizes that no matter a person's race or language, they all had one thing in common. They like to drink the nights away. One day in the hotel elevator, Benjamin catches a woman gazing at him. They later run into each other in the hotel lobby at night, kicking off a friendship. We learn that the woman, Elizabeth, tried to be the first woman to swim the English Channel, but she gave up near the end when the conditions got too rough. Soon after, their friendship blossoms into an affair. Benjamin falls in love and even writes to Daisy about it. She's seen reading the letter with bittersweet eyes. Then, one day, Elizabeth is not in the hotel lobby. She's gone. Benjamin falls asleep waiting for her, but wakes up to a lobby full of strangers instead. He goes to the bar and finds Captain Mike and the others. "Guys, the Japs just decided to pay a surprise visit to Pearl Harbor. And now we're getting enlisted in the Navy. If you want to back out, now's the time." I'ma head out," says the cook. But that's okay. Benjamin offers to take his place. The others stick around and proceed with their duties, which fortunately does include much violence. They kinda just pick up scrap metal from the water and other such mundane things. That is, until one day, the war finds them. Out at sea, they find a ship that's been split in half by a torpedo. Suddenly, like a great white emerging from the depths, a submarine appears. The men take to their battle stations and brace for the worst. While the men are getting massacred, Captain Mike sets the tugboat on a collision course with the sub. Fortunately, Benjamin avoided the carnage by taking cover, a pro gamer move. He later checks in with Mike, who's seen better days. Before departing from this world, he leaves Benjamin with some words of wisdom. "You can be as mad as a mad dog about the way things went down, but in the end, you just have to let go." Later, Benjamin is rescued and a hummingbird sends a final blessing from Captain Mike. He returned home to find a much-aged Queenie. "I was worried sick about you, baby." Benjamin is withdrawn and distant, but his mama picks up on it. "You've seen a lot of pain, haven't you?" He has indeed. "Where's Tizzy, mama?" Sadly, he passed away while Benjamin was gone. A few weeks later, Daisy returns to the nursery in search of Benjamin. "Do you by any chance know where Queenie is?" "Daisy?"
Oh my God.
She's shocked to see how much Benjamin is aged, or rather, unaged. Look, that's the best I could come up with. They chat in his room while she remarks that he really is as special as they all thought. "Oh hey, remember this book? Old Man Kangaroo?" "Yeah, I miss those days." Though, the childhood friend he once knew is gone. She's been replaced by the most beautiful woman he's ever laid his eyes on.
Beautiful.
Caroline checks the page once more.
The most beautiful.
The pair have dinner and Daisy has a smoke. She remarks that she's old enough for that now. In fact, she's old enough for a lot of things. After dinner, Daisy dances for Benjamin, attempting to seduce him. Her signals are as clear as day, but Benjamin states he doesn't want to disappoint her. Plus, she's going back to New York tomorrow. She doesn't take too kindly to being rejected, so they go on their separate paths. One day, an ill Thomas Budden pays Benjamin a surprise visit. "Do you remember me?" "Of course I do, Mr. Budden." Thomas takes him to his factory and flexes his gains. "The war's been good to the Budden industry." "Well, that's very nice. You've done great for yourself, Mr. Budden." Though, Benjamin soon learns this was no flex.
Benjamin, you're my son.
A shook Benjamin turns his back to his father. "Your mother passed during childbirth." "My mother?" We cut to Thomas's home, where Benjamin gets acquainted with his late mother through her pictures. "Benjamin, I'm arranging for everything I have to go to you once I pass. I am horribly ill. I have ligma." Overwhelmed with emotion, Benjamin leaves and goes back to his real family. He shares what went down with Queenie, and naturally, she's upset. Not long after, Benjamin pays a visit to his father. His condition has worsened considerably. Benjamin takes him out to enjoy one last sunset while reflecting on the words of an old friend. "You can be as mad as a mad dog about the way things went down, but in the end, you just have to let go." Benjamin and Queenie attend the funeral, where Thomas is buried with his Buddens. Now having inherited considerable wealth, Benjamin heads to New York to sweep Daisy off her feet. He attends one of her performances and can't keep her eyes off her. He finds her backstage, but she's not particularly thrilled to see him.
What are you doing here?
Benjamin made dinner reservations, but she declines. Instead, she invites him to an after-party. Upon arrival, Daisy is swept away by another man. As the pair dance, they embrace for a kiss. The sight is bittersweet for Benjamin, who decides to walk away. Daisy chases after him and tells him, "You didn't expect me to wait for you, did you?" "I know, I thought I'd come here and sweep you off your feet." Before they can chat much longer, Daisy is dragged away by her Chad boyfriend. A present-day Daisy reflects on the fact that he was probably there to tell her his dad passed away. But at the age of 23, she really just didn't care. The next 5 years of her life revolved completely around dancing. Caroline has a look at some photos of her mother and is taken aback. "Mom, you never talked about your dancing." Daisy indeed had an eventful career, but Benjamin was never far from her thoughts. She'd even wish him goodnight at times, and according to Benjamin's diary, so did he.
He said that.
We cut to Benjamin, who still lives in the nursery, receiving some mail. He heads to a hospital before we're treated to a montage of seemingly random events. However, they're not random. The events culminate in this taxi being at the wrong place at the wrong time. Benjamin meets with the crippled Daisy, who's absolutely devastated. Not wanting him to see her like this, she angrily dismisses him. "We're not kids anymore. I don't want you in my life. I thought I made that clear in New York." Though at the very least, she does note that Benjamin's looking handsome as ever.
Perfect.
Indeed he is, and he takes advantage of it. Benjamin goes on to live out the young bachelor life, enjoying the company of one, or two, or maybe even 3 women. Though, my man's is still kicking in with the old-timers in the nursery. That's loyalty. A few years pass, and Daisy stops by once more. Fortunately, she's learned how to walk again, but her dancing career is long gone. But that's okay. She's here to cash in on her long-term investment, Benjamin. They embrace with a hug and kick off a romance they've both been waiting their entire lives for. Finally, they've met in the middle and appear to be the same age. They enjoy a life filled with vacations, love, and spontaneity. One day, as they lay in bed, Daisy questions if he'll still love her when she's old and wrinkly. "Of course, but will you love me when I have acne? When I wet the bed? When my downstairs shrinks?" "Wait a second, Mom. When did you meet Dad?" "Sometime after that, sweetie. Now get back to reading." The couple return to the nursery to check up on things, but the house is empty. "Hey, do you know where Queenie is?"
Queenie died.
The pair attend her emotional funeral, where Queenie is buried next to Tizzy, her one and only. We cut to a little montage of Benjamin and Daisy's loving but simple life. They vow to never fall into a routine, to have fun, and to enjoy the days while they can. Though, Father Time catches up to us all. One day while swimming, Daisy catches herself eyeing a younger woman. She remarks to Benjamin that she just doesn't like growing old. However, she later overcomes this moment of self-pity and opens up her own dancing studio. Unable to continue her own dreams, she teaches the next generation instead. One day at the studio, Benjamin remarks on how happy he is to be with her. "I want to remember us just as we are now."
I'm pregnant.
Whoa, I'm not trying to be daddy for real. Just kidding, Benjamin is elated to be a father, at least, initially. The problem is, he wants to be the kid's father, not its playmate. He shares these concerns, among others, with the support of Daisy. "What if it comes out like me?"
And I will love it all the more.
Then, Daisy heads to the bathroom while the TV catches Benjamin's attention. "We're here with the oldest woman to swim the English Channel." Whoa, it's Elizabeth. And she's got some inspirational words.
Anything was possible.
One day at home,
Gotta call an ambulance.
Benjamin promptly calls an ambulance and the baby is born shortly after. It's a girl, and they name it after Benjamin's mother, Caroline. Wait, this is my dad? And this is how you tell me, Mom? Seriously? Hey, better late than never, kiddo. Anyway, Benjamin tells Daisy that she needs to find a suitable father for the child. "Am I getting old? Is that it? You don't want to be with me anymore?" "Of course not. Be honest, Benjamin." One early morning, Benjamin does what needs to be done. Just prior, he sold all his earthly belongings, including the button company, and left it all in a savings account for Daisy and their daughter. Then, he rides off as she watches from the window. Back in the present, Caroline takes it all in as she finds a variety of notes written to her. I wish I was there for your first day at school. Happy 5th birthday. I wish I was there to comfort you when your heart was broken. Happy 13th birthday. Caroline is moved to tears over the revelation. As she continues reading, we learn that Benjamin spent some time in India. It's never too late, or in my case, too early to start over, he says. About 12 years later, Benjamin returns. Daisy spots a mysterious figure at the door of her studio before realizing it's him. God, you look so young.
Only on the outside.
Then, Caroline pulls up and greets the handsome Benjamin. Hey, I remember that. Benjamin also meets Daisy's new husband before they go wait in the car. Then, Daisy says, God, you were right. I wouldn't have been strong enough to raise the both of you. She heads out with her new family as Benjamin watches on. Though, she can't resist his fresh meat. They meet in the night and partake in one last round of passion. We fast forward a few more years where we see Daisy receiving a confusing call. She shows up at the nursery where Child Protective Services has a child in custody. We found this kid with a diary. Your name is in it a lot and it has your address, so we gave you a call. Daisy walks over and finds a boy playing piano. The others explain that his behavior is erratic and he can hardly remember who or where he is. The doctors say it looks like dementia. Daisy takes on a motherly role for Benjamin in his final years. This is a picture of Old Man Kangaroo at 5 in the afternoon. Benjamin continues to grow younger and younger. He nearly eats himself off a roof, forgets how to talk, how to walk, and eventually, he's a baby again. We cut to a shot of the train station. The old clock has been replaced by a digital one that ticks forwards. Then, Daisy reflects on Benjamin's final moments. He looked me in the eyes, and I could tell in that instant he knew exactly who I was. Then, he closed them as if to go to sleep, and just like that, his time had come. Yes, I cried. Back in the present, the hurricane makes landfall and Caroline heads out to figure out what to do next. A hummingbird pays a visit to Daisy and she gives one final farewell. The flood that comes soon after washes away the old clock before we're treated to a little montage of all the people Benjamin met in his life. And that's the end. A pretty wholesome story that also makes you want to cry. Hey, Michael, I know you're watching this video. Leave a like, man.